start with the history of the Tottenham. Henry, as much as obviously Arsenal are getting a lot of attention today, and I understand why, and Liverpool are getting a lot of attention, and United, Spurs took an almighty beating on Saturday by Newcastle, which puts your top four hopes in a little bit of jeopardy. 49 goals now conceded this season. What went wrong?
Well, obviously big up to everyone and the panel. Just complete capitulation, tactically naive. And this system has got to change immediately. Like, it's not the first time we've taken a battering. We've lost, 4-2 to Brighton. We've conceded 4 goals against Chelsea. Ange Postecoglou has no plan B. And even Eric Dyer's coming out with Sky Sports saying that we don't even discuss tactics. You know, as much as other teams love inverting fullbacks, ours are basically forwards nowadays. If you look at Porro and Udogi's heat maps, they were in the final third for 65% of that game. That, as much as it's great that every other team can invert our fullbacks, ours are horrendous doing it when the plan doesn't come to a plan. And we got Newcastle just said, look, if we bide our time, defend well, we've done this before, and Eddie Howe got his plan to. It was perfect. Isak kept countering us. We couldn't live with it. We had 73% possession and got absolutely slapped, embarrassed. And let's be honest, it could have been 6, it could have been 7, it could have been 8 goals in that game. But when is Ange going to learn that our defense, that apparently is fixed and is fantastic, are on track to concede more goals than last season when we had Conte, Stellini, and Ryan Bloody Mason? You know, Ange Postecoglou's coming out saying, I want a title charge next season. Everyone's telling me, oh, you don't know what's going to happen with Klopp at Liverpool. Arsenal are going to be there. Man City's charges. Title charge? We're not even in the top 4. Like, no one thought that what result happened yesterday at Arsenal, but let's now put Villa 3 points ahead of us. We've still got to play Chelsea, Arsenal, and Manchester City. Let's be honest. What's the game plan when you play Spurs? Defend for 20 minutes and counter. Because you could build not 1, but 5 or 6 houses in that back line. Because there is so much space. Van der Ven getting spun like Kylie Minogue in her prime. Romero, by the way. Like, what are we doing here? But apparently the best centre-back in the world. It's not even the best centre-back at Spurs. Like, we need 5, 6, 7 signings in the summer.
You certainly do. And I asked this question of quite a few Spurs fans on the Match Reaction. And I always, Kate, of course, answers very honestly. I hear the system's brilliant, the manager's amazing, and works perfectly. But I also hear at the same time that you have one of the best midfields and one of the best collection of defenders in the league. But yet nobody can answer me. Everyone who believes that.
When you say best midfield, what about our midfield right now is functioning?
So, no, I agree. I agree with you. I'm saying that there's a lot of Spurs fans out there that have spoke about Basuma's better than Rice, and him and Sarr or him and Bentancur together are up there in the best in the league. They also speak about how the goalkeeper, your centre backs and full backs are anywhere between top class to world class. But I ask them this simple question: if all that's true about the players, and the manager and his system's amazing,
why are we not winning the league?
Not even that. Just less than that. How are you conceding 49 goals? If all of that is true, it doesn't, what's the expression? The maths ain't mapping for me. So it's either the system's broken or you've got players that are not as good as you think they are, or
It's
maybe a
more
little
than
bit
that,
of a combination of the
more
both.
than that.
It's definitely both, Terry. This is what Tottenham do. They a lot of not Henry and Kate, but a lot of their fans overrate their players, put them in discussions with some players that shouldn't be there, and then their expectations are bare minimum. So it's like that's just who they are. And when it comes to Ange Postecoglou, we've been saying this from early in the season. He doesn't have another idea. He got praised for doing what he did against Chelsea, and that should have just shown you guys that he didn't have another idea of what he's supposed to do to try to get the best out of what he has to his disposal. Continuously, you guys can blame injuries. You can blame it's his first season. But if this continues going into next season,
everyone has injuries.
It's going to be the same story.
Every team's got injuries. It's more than that, though. If you look at the games we've won, in the last 15 games, go back and look at every single Tottenham game, other than when we beat Aston Villa, it's such fine margins. It's 1 or 2 goals in the last 10 minutes. Brennan Johnson nicking it against Brighton. You know, things just we've probably had 3 or 4 games of the season where we've been excellent from minute 1 to minute 90. 4 maximum. Like for a team that's got aspirations to get in the Champions League and be in a title charge next season, we need major surgery, like more than Katie Price at the moment, because we are absolutely all over the place. There's no.
You're not ready for Champions League football. That's the honest truth.
Yeah, look at our last 5 games ago. We've got slapped by Fulham and flipping Newcastle. Like there's no consistency. The only thing is we're consistently inconsistent. Like it's mind blowing. And then we'll go and beat. We'll probably get a draw against Arsenal or something because it's what we do, and then everyone will be clapping again. The following week we'll get slapped. Like it's so inconsistent. It's mind blowing.
Henry, can I just ask? Nice to meet you, by the way. I'm not. Do you think that Ange's style of football is fundamentally flawed, or do you think that you just don't have the personnel for it? If it's the latter, is it worth to just keep suffering because you'll at least then figure out which players can and can't do your style of play, and then you know who to target in the summer?
It's both. I think the system at times is flawed because we struggle to break down a low block, I think, more than anyone in the top 6. The second part of that is when Tottenham slowly fall down the pecking order and top 4 starts moving away, that's when Daniel Levy pulls the trigger. And that's what my fear is. Like people are saying, oh, we're 10 points above Newcastle and Man United. We still got to play Liverpool, Arsenal and Man City. We could quite easily lose those 3 games and Newcastle and Man United win. And then all of a sudden we're battling for a Europa League position. The further we fall away, Levy will pull the trigger. I don't think Spurs fans, because of how far we've been, we haven't won anything in so long. I don't think there's actually a patience to back or stick to the process, whatever you want to call it, because we've got whoever we want to bring in, we immediately have to win something. Like you can say what you want. Arteta hasn't won a league title or whatever, but the Cronkies have gone out there and went, there's £600-700 million. Go and build something. We do that. You got managers still here from Conte, Jose. Ange hasn't got his own players. Plus, the players aren't even good enough for this system. Plus, the system has got major holes all over it. It's a collective of about 4 or 5 things that needs to be ironed out very quickly.
Listen, I don't disagree. I think he's done an excellent first job. I think I don't know about you, Don. Do you think there's a flaw in Big Ange's game? Because. Do you think that because it does seem one way to play and one way to play only, and unless you have the very best players, surely you're going to consistently be caught out. I'm kind of stealing from what you said on Saturday, Kate, to be fair, but I just want to throw that out to Don and some Nobbins and sort of rival.
Yeah. I think Ange, I think it's very clear that he's obviously drilled a clear style of playing to these guys. And listen, I liked how they were playing at the start of the season. But one thing that I've said to criticize him is they're quite naive. You know, like Egal's already mentioned, the game against us, when they went down to 9 men and they were still playing that high line. And funny enough, I was on a show with Saeed and that earlier, big him up. And I literally said, when I was watching the game against Newcastle, even though they had 11 men, it looked like the Chelsea game again. It looked so naive with how they were defending. They were persisting with the high line, even though it wasn't working. You could clearly see Newcastle were using that to their advantage, but they persisted with it and they carried on with it. So again, he needs to find a plan B, man, because Tottenham right now are very predictable. I had George earlier saying to me, "Oh, watch when we come to the bridge, we're gonna beat you." And I'm like, bro, it's crazy. I know right now Chelsea are bad, but we're unpredictable, and how you play is literally gonna play into our hands because we like chaotic football, you know, and Tottenham play chaotic football as well. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, Ange needs to sort it out. But at the same time, obviously, in the summer, let's see what other players he brings in. But this sort of football with no clear plan B, and it's where it's so predictable, it's gonna bite you, and you're gonna be on the end of a lot of batteries like this, Henry. I'll be real with you if he carries on doing this.
We already have, let alone we already have in the batteries.
At the same time, though, I think Spurs are in a really good position and in a position that no one expected in the summer. Like, you've just lost Harry Kane, probably your greatest player ever. Let's be real. Like, and like Ange just had to come in with that in itself. And I think Spurs, I think it's good for a season. I think as soon as Ange actually gets the personnel that he needs, that system will come to fruition. I don't think Spurs, I think Spurs are in a good place. I think obviously it's a bad result, but like with the style of football, it's going to come. But once you get the right players in, it'll start ticking way better. I think next season you'll build all even stronger.
The issue is, I feel like the league position might end up deceiving how good their season's been based on it started really well because people just didn't know what to expect from Tottenham. But since what, game week 10, there's been a fairly consistent pattern of even when Spurs have won games, it's not been convincing. And if you end up kind of 5th or 6th, especially because no one predicted that United would go backwards this season, no one predicted Newcastle would go backwards this season. People predicted Chelsea would catch up, which they haven't done. I feel like you might end up in a position where you go, oh, well, 5th, we thought Tottenham would finish 6th or 7th, so 6th or 7th, so 5th is good, when in reality, I'm not sure that we'll end up, has it massively improved from Conte before Conte's final 6 months? I don't know.
I have something else that I want to say, though. Is Son as the number 9 the solution for Tottenham going forward? Because that game, he looks terrible. I don't think, everything else aside, you need to figure out what you're going to do with your front 3, because recruitment in the summer is your number 1 thing. If you guys try to be cheap and go for more Timo Werners and go for more Richarlison and go for some guys that are just on the peripheries of that level, you're not going to go nowhere. You need to go and finally address that striker position or get another forward in there that can help Son and rotate in and out. Because in that game versus Newcastle, he looked lost. He did not look like a number 9. He looked like a winger who was trying to play as a number 9. They couldn't even hold up the ball, couldn't even do basic skills. I don't know what happened to Son that day, but it looked like someone changed bodies with him. So
you know what, Egal, what it is? I think people are doing too much in terms of Ange. Like, I know Ange's style of play, like I've said, is naive, yeah. But I think how he wants to play, he basically wants to outscore teams, right? But you're not going to do that with Werner, Johnson and Son up top. You're going to have to upgrade your attack, right? Because defensively, you guys are worse off. It's like Chelsea, bro. Like, defensively, we're bad this season, but going forward, we're scoring more goals, and it's similar, same thing as Tottenham. So that's what it is. He wants to outscore. He wants to outscore teams, but he ain't got the players to do it.
He does, but in terms of that's how Klopp first started in the Premier League. It was trying to outscore teams, and it was about improving the personnel that you had, because bringing in the Van Dijks and the Fabinhos, etc., top class to world class players is needed. And I do think there needs to be a realization there. Kate, from your perspective, you've kind of said that you're quite relaxed with how things are going for Spurs at the minute.
Yeah, first of all, I find it hilarious that Egal was talking about us overrating players when all of his players are world-class one day or another, and Don always overrates his players. It's just what football fans do. We all do it. We all overrate our players. It's just a fact.
Not Liverpool fans.
It's Ange's first season, a whole new system. Our club was in complete disarray, and we're sitting 11 points behind Arsenal, who have been hailed as like being absolutely unbelievable this season. I think everyone needs to give Ange a break. Yeah. He hasn't got his team up. Yeah, he hasn't got who he wants. Yes, next season, if we're sitting here and we're taking these drummings, then yeah, fine. We can all come on here and say that he's naive and he's an Australian and he's a buffoon and whatever else you want to call him. But for now, everyone needs to just chill out. It's 10 months into a project. Arsenal are nearly 5 years into theirs. They've had one FA Cup, but they're building. We need to build. It's this weekend, of all the times I've ever been a Tottenham fan, has been the worst weekend I've ever known, to the point where I just didn't even want YouTube because it's been so toxic. Everyone is either up here or down here. Where's the middle ground? We're starting again. Projects are painful. Ange Postecoglou said there's going to be bumps in the road. Yeah, it was embarrassing. It was cringe. And maybe we'll lose against Arsenal, and maybe we'll lose against Liverpool and City. Judge him on next season when he's had the summer. Get his players in and see where we are then.
I don't think...
I'm just going to say this. I was not taking a shot at you specifically. I was just speaking about the fact that your defense that has been conceding left, right, center, but you guys talk about Van de Ven being one of the best center backs. Romero, if I'm not mistaken, on this show alone, the other day, we had someone talking about you still having one of the best left backs in the world. So it's like you have the best in all these defensive positions, but yet you can't defend the defense. So I think it's fair to say you guys overrate your players, or Ange Postecoglou doesn't know how to defend.
I get where you're coming from, Miguel. I think everyone, to a degree, overrates their players at certain times. I think all I'm really saying to certain Spurs fans is Ange's system is here to stay. It's the players, for me, that are going to need to be improved upon. And I think there is this element of, oh my God. And I think there's almost that, like sometimes have you ever cut home when you're playing out as a kid? And you run into the kitchen and you're thirsty and you drink a glass of water and it tastes like the most beautiful thing you've ever tasted in your life because you're so gasping. I think after what Spurs fans had with Nuno, Jose, Conte, I think the exciting football at the beginning of the season has sort of almost spoilt them in a way of, wow, this is amazing. Maybe that your players are a little bit better than they think they are. Liverpool fans were like that in the early years of Klopp, and look how much of that squad got gutted. Look at the squad that Pep inherited, and look within a few seasons how much of that was completely ripped out. If you look at your team now, barring the players he's purchased, if he's successful, Ange, and keeps you improving, 80 to 85% of it won't be here in 3 years, 4 years. So and I think Spurs fans have just got to come to that realization. And I think you're right, Henry, with what you've said, and I think Kate as well, that it is a process. And I know that word, people hate it these days because some individuals sit behind it, like there are Liverpool fans now saying, oh, we're starting a new 5-year project. No, you're going to be expected to challenge and compete straight away because your infrastructure is amazing, and the manager's leaving a team challenging for the Premier League. The same as Moyes didn't really have an excuse to a degree. He took over a team that won the Premier League at a canter, and the expectations are always going to be higher. But I think he's doing a good. Look, there's always going to be fun and banter, but I think Ange is still doing a good job. There just needs to be a lot of improvement in players. Has to be.
I think people underestimate the difficulty in actually like getting a team playing the way you want to. Like look at United, look at Ten Hag. The time he's had, he was brought in, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's going to bring that Ajax philosophy." He's not been able to implement a style of play like United don't have.
I'll be honest with you. Sorry, Paddy, I've got to stop you. How we're playing is how we implement it. This is how he says he wants to play. Like, I actually think what you're seeing is the fruits of his labor. This is it. This is really it.
He needs to go then, but I think people are like, you look at Ange's jobs at Celtic where he's coming in, he's getting his philosophy clearly laid out, the way he wants to play, that the foundations are being laid. Like it's Tottenham. With all due respect, this is Tottenham. You know what I mean? Like he needs time to bed in. He's got the foundations. In the summer, hopefully Levy will give him a few quid. He can get some of the players he wants in, and then it'll be a progression. Spurs couldn't do better than Ange, and Ange is going to prove a lot of people wrong. And he's also seems like a very likable character. You can do a lot worse. You look at Ten Hag. I don't know. He seems like a bit of a bell end. He's a shit manager. I don't know.
Now, you know what it is? It's not that he's likable. They're more charismatic, better media trained. So Ange knows how to get around.
But Ange isn't. Ange isn't talking like I think why people like Ange is because he just speaks
natural,
like a normal person. And it just comes across as natural. And I know he says mate.
No,
and people
bro, I'm telling you, that is charisma and media training. He knows what he's doing.
Oh,
Ten Hag has neither.
Yeah, Gal can see through the smoke screen.
The guy literally
on us all.
The guy will literally pick sides. The guy will literally pick sides on whatever media topic of the day is. He'll pick the best side and just run with it. That's all he does.
Maybe he just got the best takes.
No,
exactly. Unlike you.
Look, it is what it is. Top 4 race is still on, and we'll get into that a little bit more later.